Lee Badgett is an associate professor of economics at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. She's the research director of the Institute for Gay and Lesbian Strategic Studies. Professor Badgett received her BA in economics from the University of Chicago and a PhD in economics from the University of California at Berkeley. Professor Badgett, we're very happy you're with us this morning.
Good morning, Chairman Andrews and members of the committee. Today I want to make three main points to document the need for the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. My first point is that decades of social science research have uncovered evidence of discrimination in employment against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Americans, whom I'll call, if you will, LGBT Americans for short, in workplaces across the country. Two recent national surveys give the clearest overall picture of discrimination. In 2000, a Kaiser Family Foundation survey found that 18% of LGBT people living in urban areas reported experiences of employment discrimination. In a 2005 survey, 16% of lesbians and gay men and 5% of bisexual people reported employment discrimination. There were also many, many local community surveys of non-random samples of LGBT people that also find evidence of unequal treatment in the workplace. Similar national studies have not been done on gender identity discrimination, unfortunately. However, 11 recent local surveys of transgender people have found that at least 20% and as many as 57% report having experienced some form of employment discrimination. From another angle, in the states that already outlaw sexual orientation discrimination, we've seen that LGBT people are as likely to file discrimination complaints as are people in other groups that are currently protected under federal law. My colleague William Rubenstein has shown that the annual rate of sexual orientation complaints was 3 per 10,000 LGBT people on average in these states. And I'll point out that figure is quite similar to the number of sex discrimination complaints per woman, which is about 9 per 10,000 women, and race-related complaints per person of color, which is about 8 per 10,000 people. A third way to identify the extent of discrimination is to create experiments to see if LGBT people and heterosexual job applicants are treated equally. All three such experiments in the U.S. have found evidence of unequal treatment of gay applicants in a variety of job situations. Another way to measure discrimination is to compare the earnings of people who have different personal characteristics, like sexual orientation, but have the same productive characteristics to see if employers are paying people in those two groups equally. 12 studies conducted in the U.S. over the last decade show a significant pay gap for gay men. Gay and bisexual men earn from 10% to 32% less than similarly qualified heterosexual men. Now, economists and sociologists would interpret that wage gap as evidence of discrimination by employers. Those studies also lead to my second main point, which is that sexual orientation discrimination results in economic harm to LGBT people, reducing their earnings by thousands of dollars. We have no similar studies related to gender identity, but the surveys I mentioned earlier do show that transgender people report very low incomes, often below the poverty line. Although discrimination hurts, the good news is that non-discrimination laws appear to help. Two very recent and as yet unpublished studies by my UCLA colleagues find that state-level non-discrimination laws reduce the wage gap for gay men. My third and final point is that America's businesses are also likely hurt by the direct and indirect effects of discrimination in the workplace. Economists and employers have long argued that businesses will be most successful when they recruit, hire, and retain employees on the basis of ability, not personal characteristics like sexual orientation or gender identity that have no impact on an employee's job performance. You've heard several direct testimonies to that effect. Employers would also gain from having LGBT workers who no longer need to conceal their sexual orientation or gender identity out of fear of discrimination. Employers have a stake in these individual decisions because research suggests that greater openness improves LGBT workers' well-being and their job performance. Perhaps the best evidence that non-discrimination policies are good for business comes from the fact that many companies have voluntarily added sexual orientation and gender identity to their non-discrimination policies. 88% of the Fortune 500 policies include sexual orientation and a quarter have added gender identity. Despite that progress, however, only 17% of American workers are employed by companies with those policies, and only 29% of Americans live in states that prohibit both sexual orientation and gender identity discrimination, leaving a big hole in the legal protection for millions of other workers. To sum up, decades of research document discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Our country's employers would be better off with an LGBT workforce that no longer fears discrimination. Passing the Employment Non-Discrimination Act would serve to benefit both employees and employers. Thank you.